Hello, and thanks for joining us once again with the Project Catalyst podcast and vodcast series. You're with me, Kim Clyden. It's been more than 25 years since fixed-wing drones were first adopted in agriculture. Traditionally used for their aerial view to monitor cattle in Western Queensland, whilst the Quadcopter sprayed weeds and drones detected locust swarms. By 2017, they became an integral component of many farmers' toolkits. Fast forward to 2020 and increasing payloads mean they are now revolutionising farming practices. Fertilising, spraying weeds, seeding pasture and crops, mapping blocks and rehabilitating cleared land. The ability to provide real-time data, enable precision ag practices and automate tasks is now proven to enhance productivity, profitability and sustainability across the industry. Rowan Shea discovered how useful drones could be in a family grazing business in Yalbaroo, north of Mackay.
The drones give us an option that we could get into those hard to reach places and start, targeting those areas. And with the mapping and that we can do with these drones now, we can pick out certain areas that we want to fly, and we can just go and target those areas.
So step us through this particular drone. What makes it a good one for the agricultural sector?
So this is the T40. Right, the DJI T40. It's got 40 liquids payload of liquid, and it's got a 50 kilo spreader for seed and fertiliser. So this is, it's not the latest one on the market. We've just launched the new T50s, so they're better again. So when we started, went from T16 to T30 to T40, and we also had the XAG series as well, but we're finding these machines work better for us.
So from spraying your own property to commercial applications.
That's correct, yes.
What was the most challenging part of that? Because I know that there's a whole heap of CASA licensing and all sorts of things.
Well, the biggest thing that we found was that, one, it's a whole new industry. So we were waiting for legislation and all that to catch up with us, so we fell under the aerial applications side. So we had to get licensing from CASA. We then had to set up a REOC. We then had to set up an EPA document that we could get our aerial applicators license. Then we had to do ACDC course. So there was all these different courses for us to do before we could go out and set up as a contractor.
So take me through what we're looking at right here at the moment with the T40.
So this is your T40. It's got 8 rotors there, so they spin in opposite directions to help it lift up. So you've got your 40 litre tank, and then you run down to your 2 atomizers at the rear. Your battery goes in the back. You've got your camera at the front, and that's basically it in a nutshell.
So do you change the tanks out for different applications?
Yes. To change the tank out is quite simple. There's just 2 nylon locks either side, and then you just unplug from the actual brains hub of the machine.
What's something like this worth?
At the moment, you can get a package from around 35 to 40,000.
Right.
That's just like the drone, but then you add in your mapping, your RTK, your relay, spare batteries and all that type of stuff. You can get it inwards up between $50,000 and $60,000.
When you're working with farmers who've got GPS, does that assist you?
It can do, yes. If we can tap into their RTK network, or if we use N-Trip and that type of stuff, we can get pinpoint precision by using that. How
much adoption has there been in relation to sugarcane farming particularly?
Well, it's been a big change. Like when we first started out, we'd only did like a couple of 100 hectares in the season. Then we went from 600 to over 2,000, then to 4,000, and we've already done close to 3,000 this year. So in the scale of how quickly it has jumped, it has been phenomenal for us. But our biggest thing is that the technology is changing all the time, so we have to keep up. Where we went with a T16, you'll be sitting on around 2 hectares an hour to these two, you can get to your 7-10 hectares an hour. So the machines have got bigger, they've gotten faster, and the capabilities are advancing very quickly. Well, we've seen it such an advantage of what we were doing, so we thought, how can we help others? So at the end of the day, the machines had to pay for themselves, and it was just a fast evolving network. It was a new network, and that's what we were looking to get into.
How many options do farmers have when it comes to spraying and seeding?
Well, you've got your traditional methods where you've got your ground rigs, or you've got your helicopters and fixed wings. So the drones are just giving us another method. At the end of the day, we're not here to take over those things. We're here as another option for farmers to help better produce the food and that we eat.
Sugarcane is predominantly one of the crops that we grow in the Mackay region. How much demand has there been for drone services?
Heaps at the moment. At the moment, we've had a perfect weather conditions for the vine, but people haven't been getting on. We've had early showers, which made it harder for the high rises to get on. The canes lifted up so they can't get in. But then, it's because we've got only the two helicopter services here. This is where drones have really been able to help out those farmers that don't have high rises or can't get in there any other way because their paddocks are too wet.
What kind of work have you been doing in this season?
Just predominantly spraying, cane. So we've done that. We have done a little bit of mining rehab out at Ensham, and I'm a part of the witchweed program with the DPI as well. So we do that as well.
The red witchweed?
Red witchweed, yes. Yeah, just at Havana there, the trials that we're doing with that. It's an invasive weed that gets into our ground.
With Stephen Vella?
Okay. Oh, yeah, Steve Vella, yes, no.
He's a property holder?
Yes, he is a property holder, yes.
I see they've done a lot of earthworks over there as well.
Yeah, no, they've started doing a lot of rehab stuff over there now. So what has actually happened there is that they've done the trials, we've been able to eradicate that pest there, so now we're going to slowly turn it back into cane ground. So what they effectively were doing is they were using soybean, and they did a little bit of corn trials and that type of stuff just to see how it would work. Now it's getting time that they're actually going to start giving that land back to the farmers after those trials, and they can start putting them back into full production.
How much of a problem are weeds for the industry?
Massive problem, especially the vine. Like the vine will get in and it'll start to choke the cane and it'll pull it down, and it makes it harder to harvest. And so at the moment it's one of our biggest problems, yes. Our big challenges at the moment is the wind, is weather, is being able to actually get on and to be able to, have a go at spraying the chemicals on the vine to be able to get rid of it for them.
You mentioned you do seeding as well. Is that mostly pasture species?
Yes, pasture species, yes. It all depends on what farmers want. They all have different blends, like there might be a Rhodes, a Mini Cola. So like we did a lot of work up there with Travis Perry up at Blue Mountain Road. So we were putting in, different sort of crops. We were spreading barley, we did a bit of wheat, and we did some sorghum and that type of stuff, forage sorghum. So, he was trying to eradicate, get rid of rat's tail off his place. So we were there as another option for him, so that we could be at the side of the paddock. We didn't actually have to go into the paddock.
So the wind has been fairly horrific.
Yeah, wind and rain is our massive problem. And at the moment, like we had in March and April, we had close to 18 days in that month between us and the helicopters, for all three of us that we can fly. So when you account to that, how much downtime we've had, that could be thousands of hectares that probably won't be able to get sprayed this year.
What problems does that then cause, like apart from the strangled vine that you were talking about?
Well, the thing is, if it gets to flower, it's they call it a 7-year weed type of thing. So, those farmers, because we haven't been able to get it before it's gone to seed, that seed bank will still be there. So, that'll make them have to look at pre-emergence and that type of stuff, and then they'll have to watch those areas when it comes back into their planting regime and the cane for next year.
A lot of farmers are now adopting intercropping or fallow management with seeds as well.
Yes.
How much do you think there's a scope for drones to be a part of seeding those types of crops?
Yeah, most definitely. Like I see is that, drones are here to stay, no matter what. They will be a tool in the farming from now forth. So you'll see a lot more farmers that'll look at getting into themselves, or they'll be getting contractors like us. So they will play a major part. Like, traditionally, how they put fertiliser on and past years and all that, we've never put fertiliser on cane, whereas this year we are because it's too wet. So that's where the drones have been a massive asset to the farmers, is that if it's, they haven't been able to get, certain amount of fertiliser on a certain area, that we've been able to come in and put it on with the drones.
Are you talking granular fertiliser or liquid? Oh,
we can do both. We can do both. So we've mainly done granular fertiliser. We haven't done too much. I've did one trial with nutrient. There we did a hectare for a study of putting a liquid fertiliser on. So and as far as I know, that worked really well. But that's the thing, that's the best thing about these things, is they give everybody a different option of how to manage and run their farm. The main stuff that we're doing is our herbicides, insecticides and fungicide sprays. But we got all sorts of different things that we do. Like we got bananas out the back of this place that we do, so we look after that. And then You know, we're doing soybean crop. There's all sorts of different applications that we are now doing that when we first got into the game, we didn't think we could do those sort of things. But now, more and more people, like anything, it's got to be tried and tested. So now it's getting tried and tested. More and more farmers are taking it on, or the option is that they can't get on with the ground rigs and they can't get the helicopters.
How do you maintain that cutting edge and keep up to date?
Our biggest thing is that the technology is changing. Every 12 months we're getting new updates or new machines. So we've got to stay online with that and see whether it's for us to change. But yeah, we're a part of, I work in closely with some of the, NQ Farm Shed, Nutrient, CropWise, those type of companies that, difference in chemicals. We've been to a couple of the MPVMA talks that they had. So Phil Morris from DAF, he's really good, sends out all the info and that on different label changes and all that type of stuff that we can do. So what I like about it is that it's a good group, and everybody sees these as these are the future in farming, or will help the future in farming. So everyone's trying to help us make that happen.
Farmers have to keep chemical records.
That's correct, yes.
What sort of information do you share with them that helps them in that way?
Well, basically when we go to a thing, we've got to do all our wind speed checks and all that type of stuff every interval that we do that. So we have to keep up to date with that. So we provide those records. But what we also do is at the end of the day, we give them a map so they know exactly where we've gone. So the best thing about these things is I can't hide, I can't lie or cheat or whatever you want to do, is because every time that drone takes off, it shows the flight plan of where it's gone, what it's done, how many litres per hectare, where it started, where it stopped, how long that flight was. So all the information is there. So when they do get an audit, or they get asked, or if I've done something that I shouldn't, all the records are there that, they can see, yeah, righto, this is, Rowan come, he sprayed on this day, this is what time did he start, this is what the wind speed was, this is what the humidity was, and that. So everything's there, everything's catalogued for us.
Considering a lot of farmers are now using GPS for EM mapping,
yes,
all sorts of mapping as well across the farm.
Yes.
How much information do they share with you, and what is the sort of information you need?
Oh, mainly when we go there, they give us their farm maps. So before I go to a farm, I actually like to go out and fly it. So then I've got an up-to-date view of their farm. And, plus the other thing too is if there is areas that we need to go and have a look at that they actually haven't had a thought, we can just say, hey, here's an area that, we need to look at as well. So I like to go and fly the farms and meet them beforehand, because when we get there, because at the moment we've got such short windows, we need to get there, set up and start flying.
Why do you need to upgrade the technology as you go?
Well, the thing is that it's changing. So every time they've brought out a new model, it's been a massive leap. So when we went, from the T16 to the T30, we had bigger pump pressures, we had more carrying capacity. So for us, for our time in the paddock, it decreased by half because, we could carry more, we could lift more. So they're the sort of things that we need to look at as contractors, is that, righto, because we're paid by the hectare, paid by the hour. So we've got to look at those type of things. And then it's no good flying fast because we don't use that downdraft to get all our chemical down to the bottom of the vine. So, you've got to be very particular on how you do it. But the increase in production for us was phenomenal from when we went from the T16 to the T30, and we went to the T30 to the T40. The T50 will be a little bit different because still the same size tank, but, we've got a radar underneath for our protection and safety, and then we've got, shut-off electric nozzles on the side. So they are changing and they're evolving so quickly.
Some people use software
yes,
to help look at the health of the crop or where it might need certain things. Yep. How much of that are you involved in?
Not a lot. Not a lot. The biggest thing that we found is, we tried to look at that. We tried to do NVDI scans and that type of stuff. But it was the biggest part about this is it's all new. And how does the farmer progress from it? So, you got to go with it and how it changes. Sometimes we go to farms and like, well, why don't you try this? And some of the responses, one, I've never heard of it. Two, Dad didn't do it. This was part of one of the first ones in this area that everyone was interested in it, but until they could see the results, they didn't trust the technology.
You mentioned you've been involved in a couple of trials. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Yeah. You're seeing different things. You're talking to different people. And that's the best part that I like about the industry is that you get involved in so many different things. you get to ask different questions. And you're at the forefront of some of the knowledge and that, is helping farming in this region.
Your family's from a grazing background. Yep. How long have they been grazing for?
Granddad and Grandma, sheep station down in Victoria. Mum and Dad moved up here, and then we got into the farming about 25 years ago. So Dad was a carpenter when he came up here. Based in Moranbah for many years. Dad helped build the Moranbah Fair, and then was mining, and then went into accommodations. We use the meat from our property to feed the miners that stay in our establishments out there. So before that, my background was mainly mining. So I spent 17 years out at Goonyella. So to transition from that because I always wanted to be farming. So the transition was really good.
And is this something you're going to stay in?
Yes. Yep. Oh, look, I think it's here for the future. This is what farming will help people do things differently. As you said, just your soil and crop health. We can use drones to do that type of stuff. But then have those applications where the weather isn't good. So if we can come in and help them on certain things instead of them working in the business, they can work on it.
Is it economically viable for them?
I believe so. A lot of the things that we talk with farmers about is they've got a high-rise tractor that some only use those type of the season. So my thing is that, well, when you look at it or they go to buy a new one, they're looking at 300,000 to 400,000. I said, well, when you look at that, I can come and spray your farm for the next 10 years. So it's a lot of money to have in the shed that is a depreciating value that might not start when you go to do it. But then you've got to sit in it and you've got to pay for the diesel for it and insurance on it. So it's a lot of equity sitting in a shed that you may use once or twice a year.
With the drone, you've got a 40-litre capacity on that?
That's correct.
So how many times would you have to refill during a job?
Most of our work is at 50 litres a hectare. We use 0.7 to 0.8 of a hectare each flight. So we've got a 20-hectare block. Every flight, we're coming back. So it just depends on the size of the job. So we have a diesel generator that we charge everything from. Our biggest thing is ground compaction. So when we first got into this, we were doing a lot of stuff with Oztech drones down at Bundaberg, and they started using drones on their sweet potato crops. Now the difference is when the tractors went on to spray them, they were squashing the ends of the vines. They would stop the runners. By drones, they didn't do that. So there was a bigger yield out of those crops that they actually sprayed with the drone. So they're the sort of things, we don't have that ground compaction that the tractors do. We're all bound by certain things that that people can put different things on their booms to make it more beneficial, that the sprays just dip straight down and that type of stuff. But everything comes back to wind and weather.
So what are you most excited about in relation to the future of drone technology in farming? The technology, things are getting easier in a way for farmers by having another tool that they can use. A lot of people are looking to these as another solution to make their life easier. One of our biggest things that people want them for is that they can't get us, they can't get the helicopter. How can we get onto our crop? It's too wet, type of thing. So that's where these can play a big part. And the thing is, it's just it's evolving, it's changing. We might get to a stage where they will land and fill themselves up, and we just monitor them. That's where I think that it could go.
That's Rowan Shea sharing his experience and future outlook of drones in agriculture with me, Kim Clyden. For more stories like this, connect with us on our website, projectcatalyst.net.au, and social media channels. You'll find us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Project Catalyst is funded by the partnership between the Australian Government's Reef Trust and the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, and the Coca-Cola Foundation with support from WWF Australia.